Get your filthy hands off that keyboard before I call the cops. Richard Sterling stood in his $5,000 suit, pointing at the black woman crouched near the server room terminal. His voice echoed across the empty executive floor. Amara Collins pulled her hand back like she'd been burned. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, I was just what? Stealing company data? Pretending you understand code?" He kicked her cleaning cart. Bottles and rags exploded across the marble floor. "Clean that up. That's what we pay you for." The security guard watched from his desk. He didn't move. Amara gathered supplies on her hands and knees, her worn uniform soaked with sweat. Under the scattered rags, a laptop screen glowed faint blue. Sterling walked away without looking back. Have you ever looked down on someone so completely that you missed the one person who could save you? Sterling Technologies occupied 12 floors in downtown San Francisco. Glass walls, exposed brick. Exposed. Motivational posters about innovation that nobody read. 800 employees. $3.2 billion valuation. 48 hours until the biggest product launch in company history. Richard Sterling built this empire from his Harvard dorm room 20 years ago. The tech press called him a visionary. Forbes put him on 3 covers. He had zero tolerance for incompetence and even less for people who didn't belong. Cloud Vault 2.0 was his masterpiece. A cloud infrastructure platform that would either take the company public or get them acquired for billions. The launch event was already booked. 300 venture capitalists, journalists, and corporate clients. Union Square. Open bar. Live demo. Everything rode on this. Sterling's executive team knew the stakes. Elena Rodriguez, the chief technology officer, had been running code reviews for 6 weeks straight. James Wilson, VP of engineering, sent emails at 2 in the morning with subject lines like, "Launch or die." 200 developers worked around the clock. Most of them were white or Asian men from Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon. They wore startup hoodies and kept their diplomas on their desks like trophies. The office had an unwritten rule: credentials equal competence. No exceptions. If you didn't go to the right school, you didn't get through the door. If you somehow got in anyway, you stayed in your lane. Amara Collins worked the 11 to 7 janitorial shift. 3 years emptying trash cans and scrubbing toilets while developers complained about the mess they made on purpose. She was 34, high school dropout, raised a daughter alone after getting pregnant at 16. Taught herself to code using YouTube tutorials and free online courses while her daughter slept. She carried a beat-up ThinkPad everywhere. 10 years old, duct tape holding the hinge together. She practiced coding during her breaks, sitting in supply closets with the door locked. Nobody knew. Nobody asked. The developers treated her like furniture. Daniel Hayes, the lead engineer, once made her clean up pizza boxes at 2 in the morning while he explained to his team why people like her would never understand algorithms. She smiled and nodded and took out the trash. Sterling had walked past her hundreds of times in 3 years. He never made eye contact. Not once. Tonight was different. Tonight, she'd seen something. The server room logs were still open on the main monitor when she came in to empty the trash. Error messages cascading down the screen like a waterfall. Authentication failures. Timeout exceptions. Token expiration warnings. She recognized the pattern immediately. 3 months ago, she'd finished a cybersecurity course on OAuth tokens. Not for credit. Not for a certificate. Just to learn. The instructor had shown this exact failure mode as an example of what not to do. Sterling's code had a critical vulnerability. Under heavy load, the authentication system would collapse. Tokens would expire faster than the system could refresh them. Users would get locked out. Worse, there'd be a tiny window where expired tokens could be reused. A replay attack waiting to happen. She'd photographed the error logs with her phone. Spent 20 minutes writing a fix on her laptop, hidden in the supply closet. She knew the rule. Janitors don't touch technical systems. Ever. But she also knew what would happen at the launch. 50,000 users hitting the system at once. Live demo in front of 300 people. Cameras recording. The authentication module would crash. Client data would be exposed. The company would be finished. She had to say something. That's when Sterling found her at the terminal. Ethernet cable plugged into her laptop. Code editor open on the screen. The security guard arrived 30 seconds later. Then Elena Rodriguez, who'd been working late in her office. Sterling's face went red. "You're fired. Security, escort her out. And someone check what data she just stole." Amara stood up slowly. Her voice came out steady. "Mr. Sterling, your authentication module has a critical vulnerability. If you launch in 2 days..." Did you seriously just try to tell me, a software engineer with 2 decades of experience and a company worth billions, that you found something wrong with my code? He turned to Elena. "This is what happens when we get soft on background checks." Elena held up one hand. "Richard, wait. Let her explain what she found." Sterling checked his watch. A power move, making everyone wait. "Fine. You have 60 seconds to explain this critical vulnerability to people who actually understand code. When you waste our time, I'm pressing charges for unauthorized system access." The security guard's hand moved to his radio. Amara's hands didn't shake. She'd been scared 3 hours ago when she first saw the errors. Terrified 2 hours ago when she started writing the fix. But now, standing in front of Sterling with a security guard ready to drag her out, something settled in her chest. She was right. Your token refresh function calls the authorization server every 300 seconds. But under load, server response time averages 320 milliseconds. Sterling's jaw tightened. "Get to the point. Multiply that by 10,000 concurrent users. Your queue depth exceeds buffer allocation." Elena pulled out her tablet, scrolling through code files. "Your exponential backoff is 1.5x with max retry of 3. That's 300 milliseconds, then 450, then 675. 1.4 seconds total." Amara stepped closer to the monitor. "Your token time to live is 600 seconds. Refresh trigger fires at 590. Under load, the backoff delay pushes requests past expiration." The security guard lowered his radio. "That's theoretical," Sterling said. "Real traffic doesn't..." "Your stress test tonight hit 9,340 concurrent users at 2:43 a.m. 127 authentication failures in 3 seconds. She held up her phone. Time-stamped photos, clear log entries. All resolved by retry. Now imagine launch day with 50,000 users and someone exploiting it. Elena's fingers flew across her tablet. She ran a simulation. 15 seconds of silence. "Richard, she's right. This crashes the demo and exposes the vulnerability publicly." Footsteps from the hallway. Daniel Hayes appeared, coffee in hand, smirking. "So, the janitor took a Udemy course and thinks she found a bug our entire team missed?" Amara turned to him. "I can show you the fix." Sterling's laugh was cold. "Absolutely not. Wilson, get the team in here. We'll patch this with actual engineers." Elena stepped between them. "Richard, if she spotted this in 20 minutes, what else might she see?" "She has until the team arrives." Sterling's voice dropped. "Then we do this the right way, with people who belong here." People who belong here. Amara had heard versions of that her whole life. Elena touched her shoulder briefly. "Show us the fix." Amara pulled up code on her laptop. Her fingers moved fast. She'd written this 3 times already. Hayes leaned in. His smirk faded. Sterling watched in silence. Amara hit enter. Clean compile. No errors. Token refresh handler. 3-node Redis cluster instead of single instance. Circuit breaker on AUth server calls. Token prefetch at 550 seconds with jitter to prevent thundering herd. Elena's eyes widened. You wrote distributed caching in 20 minutes? Just core logic. It needs testing, integration, deployment. How long? Amara swallowed. 30 hours. Hayes laughed. You're a janitor with a laptop from 2015. Our codebase is 2.3 million lines. I've read your entire public GitHub. I know your frameworks, naming conventions, deployment pipeline. Silence. Sterling's phone buzzed. He ignored it. When you fail, you sign an NDA and disappear. No lawsuits, no press, no glory. Deal? Amara met his eyes. Deal. But when I succeed, I want an interview for a junior developer position. Sterling's smile was ice. Sure. When you succeed. The war room filled up fast. 4:30 in the morning. 12 senior developers stumbled in with coffee and laptops, dark circles under their eyes. 2 days of crunch time already behind them. Sterling stood at the head of the glass-walled conference room. Through the windows, 20 more employees gathered outside. Word spread fast in a startup. Drama traveled faster. Code review, Sterling announced. We have a potential security issue that needs evaluation. He never mentioned Amara found it. Just a potential issue. She sat in the corner, the only chair without wheels, the only person without a laptop open. James Wilson arrived last, tablet under his arm. We have 42 hours to launch, Wilson said. If we rewrite the auth module, we need 96 hours minimum for regression testing. Then we don't rewrite, Sterling said. We patch. Amara's voice cut through. A patch won't work. The issue is architectural. 12 heads turned. Your token storage uses a single Redis instance. You need distributed caching with... Hayes interrupted, louder. We're not taking system design advice from someone who doesn't even have a GitHub account. A few developers snickered. One typed something on Slack. Phones buzzed around the room. Elena stood up. Richard, let her propose the solution. Worst case, we dismiss it. Best case, we save the launch. Sterling checked his Rolex. Fine, 30 minutes. Architect a solution on the whiteboard. My team evaluates. If even one person says it's unworkable, you leave and never touch a computer in this building again. He pointed at the whiteboard like it was a trap. And it has to use existing infrastructure, no new services, maintain backward compatibility, complete in 36 hours. Sterling's smile was thin. And explain it so even a non-technical CEO can understand. The room laughed, small, cruel laughs. Outside the glass walls, the crowd grew. Grace Thompson from HR pushed through, arms crossed. She'd heard the commotion, stayed to watch. Security cameras blinked red in the corners. Amara stood, walked to the whiteboard, picked up a blue marker. Her hand was steady. She drew a simple box labeled Current Single Redis. Right now, all your tokens live here. One instance, one point of failure. Under load, it becomes a bottleneck. She drew 3 boxes in a triangle. Replace with Redis cluster, 3 nodes minimum. Distributed token storage. If one node fails, the others handle the load. Hayes leaned back in his chair. That's just standard cloud-native patterns. Nothing revolutionary. A junior developer whispered to the person next to him. Yeah, but we should have done this from day one. Amara kept drawing. Add a circuit breaker pattern on your auth server calls. Right now, when the server is slow, you retry in a loop. That makes it worse. Circuit breaker fails fast, cuts the request, prevents cascade failure. Elena's fingers moved across her tablet, checking something. The circuit breaker alone reduces our error rate by 60%, Elena said quietly. Amara drew a timeline. Move your token refresh from 590 seconds to 550. Add jitter, random delays of 5 to 15 seconds per user. Prevents thundering herd problem where everyone hits refresh at the same moment. She added 2 arrows, one labeled red and one labeled right. Separate red and right paths for token validation versus refresh. Reduces lock contention. Faster response times. The room was silent now. Developers actually paying attention. Finally, add a cryptographic nonce to each token. Unique identifier. Even during the vulnerability window, replay attacks become impossible. She capped the marker, turned around. 12 engineers stared at the whiteboard. Hayes broke the silence. Even if the design is sound, implementation is complex. Who has 36 hours to rewrite this? Nobody spoke. Everyone was maxed out. Pre-launch chaos. Every developer was buried in critical tasks. "I can write it," Amara said. The room erupted in laughter. Hayes almost spit his coffee. "You're a janitor with a laptop from 2015. Our codebase is 2.3 million lines of Python, Go, and Rust. I've read your entire public repo. I've debugged your open source libraries on my own time. I know your naming conventions, testing frameworks, deployment pipeline." Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. "Give me access and a mentor to review my commits. I'll have it done in 30 hours. Elena stepped forward. "Richard, we're out of options. I'll supervise personally. If she fails, we roll back and patch the old way." Sterling's eyes moved from Elena to Amara to the whiteboard. He was calculating. She could see it. The risk, the optics, the humiliation if she succeeded. "Fine." The word hung in the air. "But when you fail, not if, you sign an NDA and disappear. No lawsuits. No press. No, I found a bug story for Twitter. Deal?" Amara's voice was quiet. "Deal. But when I succeed, I want an interview for a junior developer position." Sterling's smirk returned. "Sure. When you succeed." He said it like it was impossible, like the sun rising in the west. Hayes pulled out his phone, typing fast. Within seconds, a Slack channel appeared. Someone had already named it Janitor Coder Fail Watch. Messages flooded in, betting on how many hours until she gave up, jokes about her cleaning the code instead of writing it. Grace Thompson stood outside the glass, watching everything, taking notes. Elena walked over to Amara. "I'll set up your access. Isolated dev environment. I'll review every commit before it goes to staging." She lowered her voice. "Don't make me regret this." Amara picked up her laptop. "I won't." Sterling turned to Wilson. "When this blows up, I want documentation of every failure, time-stamped. We're going to need it for the termination file." 30-hour countdown. Amara sat at a desk in the corner of the engineering floor. Isolated. No windows. A single overhead light that flickered every few minutes. They gave her a laptop with restricted access. Guest network. Limited permissions. The kind of setup you'd give an intern you didn't trust. Hayes walked past her desk 3 times in the first hour. Each time he slowed down, looked at her screen, smirked. The 4th time he stopped. "Just so you know, if you break anything, you're personally liable. We'll sue you for damages." Amara didn't look up. "I won't break anything." "People like you always say that." He walked away before she could respond. The Slack channel exploded overnight. Janitor Coder Fail Watch had 200 members by dawn. Messages rolled in every few seconds. "Taking bets. She quits by hour 10. $20 says she can't even get the environment set up. This is what happens when you let diversity hires touch production code." Grace Thompson read every message, screenshotted them, filed them away. Hour 3. Amara's laptop froze. Kernel panic. Blue screen. She walked to the IT desk. The technician looked her up in the system. "You're not authorized for hardware replacement." "My laptop crashed. I need..." "Submit a ticket. 3 to 5 business days." Amara felt the clock ticking in her chest. "I'm on a deadline for Mr. Sterling." The technician shrugged. Everyone's on a deadline. Grace appeared from nowhere. Get her a new laptop. Now. Ma'am, the protocol. I don't care about protocol. She's working directly for the CEO. If you delay her, you delay the launch. Want to explain that to Sterling? 10 minutes later, Amara had a working laptop. Hour 6. First breakthrough. She refactored the token storage module, implemented the Redis cluster integration, 200 lines of clean Python. A junior developer named Sarah walked by, stopped, looked at the code on Amara's screen. Is that the auth module refactor? Yeah. Sarah leaned in closer. That's actually really clean. Did you write this? Amara nodded. Sarah pulled up a chair. Can you explain how the circuit breaker works? I've been trying to implement one for weeks. For 5 minutes, they talked like colleagues, like engineers, like people who belonged at the same table. Then Hayes's voice boomed across the floor. Sarah, stop wasting time. We have real work to do. Sarah stood up fast, mumbled an apology, walked away. Amara kept coding. Hour 9. The wall. Circuit breaker implementation hit a race condition she hadn't anticipated. 2 threads trying to update the same state. The system deadlocked. She stared at the error logs. Tried 3 different approaches. All failed. Her eyes burned. Her back ached. The flickered overhead light felt like a drill in her skull. She pulled up Stack Overflow. Searched for similar patterns. Found a post from Stripe's engineering blog. A solution for distributed state management. She adapted it. 400 new lines. Compiled. Ran tests. Green. All passing. Hour 12. Elena arrived for code review. She pulled up Amara's commits, scrolled through slowly. You have 3 logical errors in the token refresh handler. Amara's stomach dropped. Where? Elena pointed them out. Race conditions, edge cases, things that would only break under specific loads. Fix these before we go further. 40 minutes later, Amara pushed the corrections. Elena reviewed again. Good. Keep going. No praise, no encouragement, just acknowledgement. It was enough. Hour 15. Sterling checked in. He appeared at her desk without warning, stood over her shoulder. Progress report. Token refresh module complete, starting validation layer. He looked at her screen, at the lines of code, at the commit history. How many errors has Elena found? 3, all fixed. How many will she find tomorrow? Amara turned in her chair, met his eyes. None. Sterling's jaw tightened. We'll see. He walked away, stopped 10 feet later, turned back. Wilson, give her enough rope to hang herself. Wilson looked up from his desk. Already on it, sir. The Slack channel lit up again. She's still going. Actually kind of impressive. Don't get soft, she'll crash by morning. $50 says Sterling fires her before the 30 hours are up. Grace Thompson watched from her office. She'd started a separate document. Names, screenshots, timestamps. If this went wrong, she'd make sure everyone remembered how it happened. Hour 18. Amara implemented the cryptographic nonce generation. The hardest part. She'd never worked with Rust crypto before. Had to read documentation on the fly. Trial and error. Compile. Debug. Repeat. First attempt. Compilation errors. Second attempt. Runtime panic. Third attempt. It worked, but too slow. 200 milliseconds of latency per token. Fourth attempt. Optimized the algorithm. 12 milliseconds. Acceptable. Elena reviewed the code at midnight. She just taught herself Rust crypto in 6 hours. Elena said it to no one, just out loud, to the empty office. Outside, the city slept. Inside, Amara kept typing. The countdown continued. Hour 19. Hour 3 cups of coffee sat empty on Amara's desk. Her eyes felt like sandpaper. Her fingers cramped around the keyboard. But the code was flowing now. Muscle memory. Logic chains snapping into place. She implemented the pre-fetch queue, load balancing logic, token distribution across the Redis cluster nodes. The main engineering floor buzzed with late-night activity, developers working on their own pre-launch tasks. Every few minutes, someone walked past her desk. Some ignored her completely. Some stopped, stared at her screen, walked away without saying anything. One developer, a guy named Marcus from the infrastructure team, pulled up a chair. "You're actually doing it." Amara didn't look up. "Trying to." Hayes sent an email to Sterling an hour ago. Concern memo about risking the launch on an unproven amateur. Her fingers stopped typing. Did Sterling respond? Not yet. Marcus stood up. "For what it's worth, your code looks solid." He left before she could thank him. Hour 22. The Slack channel had gone quiet. Not because people stopped watching, because they ran out of jokes. Someone posted a screenshot of her commit history. 47 commits in 22 hours, each one with a clear, professional message. Fix race condition in token validator. Optimize nonce generation algorithm. Add integration tests for circuit breaker. Another message appeared. "Okay, I'll admit it. This doesn't look like amateur work." 30 seconds later, that message was deleted. Hour 24. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from her daughter. "Mom, you missed breakfast. Are you okay?" She'd forgotten. Completely forgotten she was supposed to video call this morning. She typed back with shaking hands. "I'm okay, baby. Working on something important. I'll call you tonight." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Is it worth it? Amara stared at the question. Worth missing time with her daughter? Worth the humiliation? Worth fighting people who would never see her as equal? She looked at the code on her screen. 2,000 lines. All hers. All working. Yes, I think it is. She put the phone away. Hour 26. Hayes appeared at her desk with Wilson. "We need the server room for staging deployment. You'll have to move. I'm in the middle of company policy. Active deployments take priority." They stood there, waiting. Amara saved her work, closed her laptop, gathered her things. They moved her to a supply closet. No desk. A folding chair. 1 power outlet. The light didn't work. She coded by laptop screen glow. Grace Thompson found her 15 minutes later. "This is retaliation. I'm documenting this." "It's fine," Amara said. "I just need to finish." "It's not fine. None of this is fine." But Grace couldn't override Wilson, not without escalating to Sterling. And Sterling had made his position clear. So Amara stayed in this closet and kept coding. Hour 28. Elena ran preliminary integration tests on Amara's code. The modules loaded into the staging environment. First test, token generation. Pass. Second test, distributed storage. Pass. Third test, circuit breaker under simulated load. Pass. Fourth test, full authentication flow with 10,000 concurrent users. The progress bar crawled across Elena's screen. Hayes stood behind her. "When this fails, I want it on record that I opposed this from the start." Elena didn't respond. The test completed. Pass. Hayes leaned closer. "Run it again. There's no way." "I already ran it 3 times, James. Same result." Her voice was ice. "The code works." Hour 29. Amara pushed her final commits. 3,847 lines of new code. 1,200 lines refactored. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, from exhaustion. She stood up from the folding chair. Her back screamed. Her neck was stiff. She'd been hunched over a laptop for almost 30 hours straight. She walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on her face. In the mirror, she looked like a ghost. Dark circles, bloodshot eyes. Her cleaning uniform was wrinkled and stained with coffee, but her reflection smiled back. She'd done it. Hour 30. The war room filled again. Sterling, Wilson, Hayes, Elena, 12 developers, Grace Thompson standing in the back. Outside the glass walls, 40 employees gathered. Phones out. Recording. Elena connected her laptop to the main display. Full regression test suite, 2,847 tests. She hit enter. The room went silent. On screen, a progress bar appeared. Test after test, green check marks rolling down like a waterfall. Authentication module, pass. Token generation, pass. Circuit breaker, pass. Distributed caching, pass. Load simulation, 10,000 users, pass. Load simulation, 25,000 users, pass. Load simulation, 50,000 users, pass. Security scan, 0 vulnerabilities detected. Performance analysis, 34% faster response time under load compared to the old system. The progress bar reached 100%. 2,847 tests passed. 0 failures. Nobody spoke. Hayes stared at the screen like it had personally betrayed him. Run it again. Elena's voice was flat. I already ran it 3 times before this meeting, James. There has to be an error somewhere. She's not what? Elena turned to face him. Not qualified? Not educated? Not white enough? The room went ice cold. Hayes's face turned red. That's not what I... Then what did you mean? Silence. Sterling cleared his throat. The tests pass. That doesn't mean it works in the real world. He turned to Elena. Deploy to staging. If it survives 12 hours without crashing, we'll consider it for launch. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. No thank you. Just, we'll consider it. Amara stood in the corner of the room, still in her cleaning uniform, still invisible. Sarah, the junior developer, started clapping. Slow at first, then faster. One by one, other developers joined. Not all of them, maybe half. But it was something. Hayes stormed out of the room. Sterling followed without looking back. Wilson hesitated, looked at Amara, looked at the screen, walked out. Elena shut down her laptop. Go home. Get some sleep. Staging deployment starts in an hour. Amara's voice came out hoarse. What if it crashes? Then we'll deal with it, but I don't think it will. Elena packed up her things. For what it's worth, I've never seen anyone code like that under pressure. Not in 20 years. She left before Amara could respond. Grace Thompson walked over. I documented everything. Every message. Every act of retaliation. Every attempt to sabotage you. Why? Because someone should. Grace handed her a bottle of water. Drink this. You look like you're about to pass out. Amara drank. The water was cold and perfect. Outside the war room, employees were still recording, still watching. One of them posted to Twitter. Something incredible just happened at Sterling Technologies. Thread incoming. The tweet got 50 retweets in 5 minutes. The story was starting to spread. 12 hours later, 6 p.m., one day before launch, Amara sat in her car in the parking garage. She hadn't gone home. Couldn't risk missing something. She'd slept 3 hours in the back seat. Her phone buzzed. Elena. Staging results are in. Come to Sterling's office. Amara's stomach dropped. She walked through the lobby, past the reception desk, into the elevator. up to the executive floor. The same floor where Sterling had kicked her cart 36 hours ago. Sterling's office door was open. He sat behind a massive desk, floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, the city skyline like a crown. Elena stood to the side. Wilson sat in a leather chair. Hayes leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Sit," Sterling said. There was only one chair left, cheap plastic, the kind from the conference rooms. Amara sat. Sterling slid a paper across the desk. Staging environment results. 0 crashes, 50,000 concurrent users, 5 times our launch estimate. He slid another paper. Latency improved 40% versus the old system. Another paper. Third-party security audit. No exploitable vulnerabilities found. He leaned back in his chair. "Your code works." Amara waited for the but. "Elena thinks we should use it for launch. Wilson agrees. Even Hayes admits it's technically sound." Hayes looked like he'd swallowed glass. However, there it was. "If we use your code and it works, you get credit. The press will turn this into a story. Poor black janitor saves billion-dollar company. We become the villains who didn't recognize talent." Sterling's fingers drummed on the desk. "If we use it and it fails, I look like an idiot for trusting a janitor over my entire engineering team. Either way, I lose." Wilson spoke up. "What if we present it as a team solution? Minimize her individual contribution. Say the engineering department collaborated on a fix." Amara's hands tightened on the armrests. Elena stepped forward. "Richard, that's smart," Sterling interrupted. "We deploy her code. Elena presents the security module at launch as a collaborative team effort. Amara stays backstage." He looked directly at Amara. "You keep your janitorial position. When this blows over, maybe HR considers you for an entry-level interview. Maybe. Take it or leave it." The room waited. Amara thought about her daughter, about 3 years of being invisible, about the Slack channels and the jokes and the kicked cart, about the code that worked. "I'll take it." Elena's face fell. "Amara, you don't have to. I just want my code to work. I want to prove I can do this. If it saves the company, that's enough." Sterling smiled. "Glad you're reasonable. Wilson, draft the NDA. Elena, update the launch presentation. Remove any individual attribution." Amara stood. "When do I sign?" "Tonight, before you leave the building." She walked toward the door. Sterling's voice stopped her. "And Amara, don't get any ideas about talking to the press. The NDA includes a non-disparagement clause. You say one word, we sue you for everything you'll ever make." She left without responding. In the hallway, Grace Thompson was waiting. "I heard everything." "It's fine." "It's not fine. He's stealing your work." Amara kept walking. Let him think he won. Launch day, 10 a.m., 2 hours before the event. Amara was mopping the executive floor, back in her uniform, back in her place. The NDA sat signed in Sterling's office. Her code was deployed to production. Elena was rehearsing the presentation downtown. Everything was ready. Then Elena's voice crackled over the building intercom. "Richard Sterling to server room B immediately. Security incident." Amara froze. Employees rushed past her. She followed, mop still in hand. The server room was chaos. Elena at the main terminal. Wilson pulling up logs. Hayes standing behind them, pointing at the screen. Sterling arrived 30 seconds later. "What happened?" Hayes turned, and his eyes locked on Amara in the doorway. "Her. That's what happened." He pulled up security footage on the side monitor. 8:47 a.m. Unauthorized access from an internal IP. Janitorial supply closet. She's been accessing the production system this morning. The footage showed Amara at a terminal, typing frantically, code scrolling across the screen. Sterling's face went red. "You accessed production without authorization? I found something. You violated every protocol we have. Wilson, call the police. Mr. Sterling, please, there's a back door in... Enough! His voice echoed off the server racks. Security! Remove her from the building, now! 2 guards appeared. They weren't gentle. One grabbed her arm. The other took the mop from her hands. Wait, Amara pulled against them. The load balancer has malicious code. Check production config line 1294. Someone inserted it last night. Hayes laughed. She's making excuses. Classic. They dragged her toward the exit. Her feet barely touched the ground. Employees lined the hallway, phones out, recording everything. This is what happens when you let unqualified people play engineer, Hayes said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Grace Thompson tried to step forward. Richard, just let her explain. Stay out of this, Grace. She violated her NDA, accessed production systems illegally. She's done. They pulled Amara through the lobby, past reception, out the front doors. The guards released her in the parking lot. You're banned from the property. We see you again, we call the cops. The glass doors locked behind them. Amara stood in the morning sun, shaking, not from fear, from rage. She'd saved them, built something that worked, signed away her credit, stayed quiet, and they threw her out like trash. She walked to her car, sat in the driver's seat, put her head on the steering wheel. For the first time in 36 hours, she cried. Not from sadness, from exhaustion, from the weight of being right in a world that would never believe her. Her phone buzzed. Text from Grace Thompson. I believe you. Sending red-only VPN credentials. Find the proof. I'll buy you time. Amara wiped her eyes, opened her laptop, logged into the VPN using Grace's credentials. 60 minutes until the launch event went live. 60 minutes until 50,000 users hit a system with a backdoor. She pulled up the production config files. Line by line. Searching. Line 1294. There it was. A second authentication pathway. Completely separate from her security module. It bypassed every protection she'd built. Logged credentials to an external server. She checked the commit history. Inserted at 3:22 a.m. last night, while everyone slept. The admin who added it, James Wilson. Her hands stopped shaking. She pulled up badge swipe records, cross-referenced timestamps. Wilson entered the building at 3:15 a.m., left at 3:45 a.m. He'd sabotaged the system, deliberately, to make her code fail publicly, to prove Sterling right. But why would Wilson risk the company? She dug deeper, checked the external server receiving the credentials. The IP traced back to a shell company. Ownership records buried under 3 layers. But the final name made her stomach drop. James Wilson, 51% ownership. He wasn't just sabotaging her, he was stealing client data to sell. Amara had 45 minutes to stop it, and she was locked out of the building. Union Square, noon. 300 people filled the venue. Venture capitalists in tailored suits, journalists with cameras, CTOs from Fortune 500 companies. The stage was massive, 20-foot screens on either side. Sterling Technologies logo glowing blue. Richard Sterling stood center stage, confident, smiling. Thank you all for coming. Today, we launch Cloud Vault 2.0, the most secure cloud infrastructure platform ever built. Applause rippled through the crowd. Backstage, Elena paced with her presentation notes. Hayes sat in the tech booth controlling the screens. Wilson stood near the exit, checking his phone. Outside the venue, Amara ran. Grace had texted her the service entrance code. She slipped through the back corridors, past catering staff, past security who didn't look twice at a woman in a cleaning uniform. She found the tech booth balcony, 20 feet above the stage, public view of everything. Sterling was 10 minutes into his keynote. Our CTO will now demonstrate why Cloud Vault 2.0 is unhackable. Elena stepped onto the stage. The screens lit up with code. Our new authentication system, developed by our team, eliminates every known vulnerability. Amara's voice cut through the room. That's a lie, and you're about to prove it. 300 heads turned. Cameras swiveled toward the balcony. Sterling's face went white. Security, remove her. Mr. Sterling, if your system is so secure, let me test it. Right now, in front of everyone. The press section erupted. Who is she? Why is she in a janitor uniform? Is this part of the presentation? Elena whispered into her microphone, but it was still live. Richard, that's the woman who wrote the code. The room exploded with noise. Sterling's jaw clenched. He was trapped. 300 witnesses, dozens of cameras. If he refused, it looked like he was hiding something. Fine. You want to embarrass yourself publicly? You have 60 seconds to hack our unhackable system. When you fail, I'm pressing charges for trespassing and corporate sabotage. He gestured to the demonstration terminal on stage. The screen projected to the entire room. Amara walked down from the balcony, through the crowd. People moved aside like she was radioactive. She stood at the terminal. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Mr. Sterling's system has a back door. Someone with admin access inserted code last night that logs user credentials to an external server. I'm going to prove it right now. Hayes stood up in the tech booth. That's slander. She's lying. Then let her try, someone from the press shouted. Amara's fingers moved. I'm creating a test account. Everyone can see this. On the giant screens, her keystrokes appeared in real time. Username, demo@test.com. Password, CloudVault 2024. She hit enter. The system accepted it. Account created. Now watch what happens. She opened a second terminal window, connected to her VPN, pulled up network traffic logs. The entire room watched on the 20-foot screens. This external IP just received a post request containing my username and plaintext password. That should never happen. CloudVault 2.0 should never send credentials outside the system. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A journalist raised his phone. Can you prove that's not fake? Amara pulled up the production config file. Highlighted line 1294. This webhook was inserted at 3:22 a.m. today. Here's the audit log. She projected it on screen. The admin who added it was James Wilson. The room erupted. Wilson pushed toward the exit. Security blocked him. Hayes jumped from the tech booth. She's fabricating evidence. She had access this morning. She could have planted this herself. Amara turned to face him. The audit log is cryptographically signed with blockchain-based timestamps, your own system. Unless I hack the blockchain in 90 minutes, this is authentic. Elena pulled out her tablet, verified the signature herself. Richard, the signature is valid. This was Wilson. Sterling looked like he'd been punched. Wilson, explain. Wilson's face was red, sweating. She's unqualified. She's dangerous. I was protecting the company from... From what? Amara's voice was steel. From me? Or from the fact that a black woman with no degree wrote better code than your entire Ivy League team? The silence was absolute. Cameras captured everything. Someone in the press section started typing furiously. You weren't protecting the company, Amara continued. You were stealing client credentials. The external server traces back to a shell company you own. She pulled up the ownership records, projected them on screen. You sabotaged my work so I'd take the blame when the system failed and credentials leaked. Then you'd sell the data. Wilson lunged toward the stage. Security grabbed him. She's lying. Sterling, don't listen to her. She's just a janitor who got lucky. Lucky? Amara's voice rose for the first time. I spent 30 hours writing code that saved your company. I found your vulnerability. I fixed it. I asked for nothing but a chance. She turned to face Sterling. You said if I succeeded, I'd get an interview. I succeeded. Your product is launching successfully because of my code. Your VP tried to sabotage it and steal from your clients. The crowd was silent, waiting. Now answer one question in front of these 300 witnesses and cameras. She paused. Was I qualified? 10 seconds of silence. Sterling's face cycled through rage, humiliation, calculation. His voice came out quiet. Your code is functional. You demonstrated competence. That's not what I asked. The crowd leaned forward. Was I, a black woman, a janitor, a high school dropout qualified to save your billion-dollar company? A journalist in the front row started chanting, "Answer her!" Another joined. "Answer her!" Then another, then the entire room. "Answer her! Answer her! Answer her!" Sterling's hands shook. "Yes." The word barely came out. "Louder," Amara said. "Yes. You were qualified." The room exploded. Applause, shouting, camera flashes like lightning. Someone started a slow clap that built into thunder. Hayes tried to leave. Security stopped him too. Grace Thompson walked onto the stage, handed Sterling a folder. "Richard, you need to see this." Inside, screenshots of every discriminatory message from the Slack channel, every act of retaliation, every attempt to sabotage Amara. Time-stamped, documented, ready for lawyers. Sterling looked at the folder, at the cameras, at the 300 witnesses who would never forget this moment. He was beaten, and everyone knew it. Elena stepped forward, took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the woman you just met is Amara Collins. She identified a critical security vulnerability, architected the solution, and implemented it in 30 hours. Cloud Vault 2.0 is secure because of her." The applause doubled. Amara stood on the stage in her cleaning uniform. For the first time in 3 years, everyone saw her. The applause faded. Sterling still stood on stage, holding the folder Grace had given him. His hands trembled slightly. Grace stepped forward, speaking into the microphone. "There's more." The room went quiet again. 3 days ago, Elena Rodriguez filed an SEC whistleblower report about systematic discrimination in Sterling Technologies' hiring and promotion practices. Sterling's head snapped toward Elena. "You did what?" Elena's voice was calm. "I filed a report because going to you would have meant silence. Amara isn't the first qualified person we've ignored. She's just the first who proved it where no one could look away." Grace pulled out another folder. "I have 47 incident reports of discrimination filed over the past 2 years. Racial slurs, blocked promotions, hostile work environment complaints." She looked directly at Sterling. "You told me to bury them. I did. I won't anymore." The journalists were recording everything. Grace continued. "Either you reform hiring and promotion practices immediately, or I submit these to the EEOC and every news outlet in this room." Sterling looked trapped, cornered by his own choices. A reporter stood up. "Mr. Sterling, will you commit to transparency on diversity hiring going forward?" Another reporter. "What consequences will Wilson and Hayes face?" Sterling's lawyer whispered in his ear. He nodded slowly. "Wilson and Hayes are terminated immediately. We'll cooperate fully with any investigation into their actions." He looked at Amara. "What do you want?" Amara's voice was steady. "A developer position. Senior level. Market rate salary. Equity." She paused. "And I want you to fund a training program for non-traditional candidates. People who taught themselves but can't break through the credential barrier. People like me." Sterling looked at his lawyer again. The lawyer nodded. They had no choice. Not with cameras rolling. Grace produced a contract from her folder. Pre-written, ready. "Sign it, now, on stage." Sterling took the pen. His signature looked shaky on the giant screens. The crowd applauded again. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Sterling, will you publish quarterly diversity reports?" He forced a smile. "Yes, starting immediately. Sterling Technologies will be transparent about our progress." Wilson and Hayes were escorted out by security. The cameras followed them all the way to the doors. Amara stood center stage, no longer invisible, no longer silent. The woman who saved a billion-dollar company while everyone tried to stop her. 1 week later, TechCrunch headline, "From janitor to senior developer, how Amara Collins saved a billion-dollar launch." Wired ran a feature, "The code that changed everything." Forbes called her for an interview. Amara's LinkedIn updated, "Senior Software Engineer, Sterling Technologies." Her profile photo showed her at a desk with windows, dual monitors, a team of engineers in the background. Wilson was banned from the tech industry. SEC investigation ongoing for data theft and fraud. Hayes was fired. No severance. His LinkedIn still said seeking opportunities. Bye. Elena Rodriguez was promoted to co-CEO. Sterling was forced to share power. The board demanded it. The Collins Fellowship launched with 50 scholarships annually for non-traditional tech candidates. Amara led the selection committee. Applications poured in from across the country. Single mothers, high school dropouts, people who taught themselves in libraries and community centers, people who'd been told they didn't belong. The first cohort started 3 months later. Amara stood in front of 12 students in a Sterling Technologies classroom. A young man in a janitorial uniform sat in the front row, laptop open, learning Python during his break. She saw herself in every face. "They didn't see me because they didn't want to," she said quietly. "I was invisible not because of my skills, but because of their assumptions." She walked between the desks. The code didn't care that I was black, or a woman, or a dropout. The code just cared if I was right. She stopped at the whiteboard. And I was right. The students watched her, listening, believing. Sterling never apologized. He didn't have to. The system changed because people like Elena and Grace refused to stay silent, because I refused to stay invisible. She picked up a marker. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told you don't belong, remember this: competence doesn't ask permission. She wrote on the board, "It just proves itself." What will you prove? The camera pulled back. 12 students, 1 teacher. A classroom that didn't exist a month ago. Outside the window, San Francisco stretched toward the horizon. Somewhere in that city, another person was teaching themselves to code, waiting for their chance. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment with your own story of being underestimated. Subscribe, because competence deserves an audience. And remember, the world only changes when we refuse to stay invisible.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is, because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.